Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Nicole and today I'm going to be picking my books for March. So like every month I'm going to be playing my TBR game to pick my books for March. However, in the month of March, I always read Mammoth books. So I don't know at the time of filming whether or not March of the Mammoth, which is a reading event, is happening, but even if it's not, my entire TBR is still going to be made up of only books that are over 800 pages long. So if you watched one of my previous videos, I just recently released a video that was all books that are over 800 pages, and I am this month only going to be choosing off of that list. But don't worry, there's still a TBR wheel. So I'm going to spin the wheel to see what the title of the book needs to start with, and then I will just pick a book off of that video list that I did. So you can go watch that if you want to know ahead of time what the books are, but I will show them to you. And I have put on the wheel two opportunities for there to be a viewer pick. I'm not going to pick two viewer picks, but I just wanted to slightly increase the chances of it coming up just because there are significantly more letters in the alphabet than there is number of viewer picks, da 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 da. You'll see how it all works out as we go along. I am making one other permanent change to my TBR game, which is instead of working up to 3,000 pages worth of reading, I'm going to switch that to 6,000 pages worth of reading. Not because I anticipate actually reading 6,000 pages in a month, but just because I want 6,000 pages worth of options. And especially because these books are coming in at least 800 pages, I'm going to hit that 3,000 page mark really quickly. But in February, I also realized I had a lot of problems because there were just a lot of books that I was not willing to pick up at the time and I needed more options, blah, blah, blah. Let's play the game. Let's spin the wheel. The letter F. If I had a better memory, I'd already be able to tell you what this book is, but I can't. So let me go gather the book and we'll sit down and talk about it. Okay, so here we go with the first book. But first, I do want to comment on the fact that there's been a wardrobe change. This is now a different day. I usually film all the spinning at once and all the book talk at once, and then combine the two later in the editing. And when I went to edit this video, I realized I somehow managed to pull all the wrong books off the shelf. Like, not a single one of them was right. And so I need to refilm this part. So here we are, a different day. I've reorganized my bookshelf, but that's not important. The first book that's going on this TBR needed to start with the letter F and be over 500 pages long, and that is going to be the Forsyte Saga by John Galsworthy. So this is a book that takes place in the late 1800s, so sort of end of Victorian era, beginning of Edwardian period, and it sounds like it's going to be all sorts of things that I like. I'm pretty sure this is not a trilogy and that it's actually one book that was maybe published in 3 different volumes, but it's made up of the 3 books, The Man of Property, In Chancery, and To Let. But every time I see this book now, I always see it as the one bound book. So let me tell you what this is about. It's supposed to be about the Forsyte family, who is a commercial upper middle class family living in 1886 to 1920s. And the main protagonist, I believe, is Soames Forsyte, is how you say his name. And he is basically being portrayed as a guy who is outliving the Victorian era. So I'm guessing he's going to become very dated very quickly. And he is baffled by his passion for his wife, who seems very uninterested in him. And then there are a whole bunch of just different ideas that this book discusses, including family fortunes, social developments, the changing position of women in a intensely competitive male world is how they put it. So that just sounds like it's promising to be a good chunky family drama. So I'm really hoping it delivers on that, and we'll see, if I get to it this month. Because like I said, I'm creating a huge pile of possibilities here. So it remains to be seen which of these I actually end up picking up. This book, however, is 850 pages long. Okay, our next book pick. Okay, the letter X. I do know which book this is. Okay, this is probably going to be the only book that I actually end up remembering. was on that other list. And for the letter X, it is XX by Rian Hughes. So this is a big chunky book that I actually started sometime towards the end of last year or last summer. And I just had too many things going on at the same time and put it down to come back to it and never came back to it. And not because I wasn't disliking it. Like, I think I just ended up putting it away and then we moved and then I forgot about it. But this is a book that is basically made up of mixed media. The author is actually a graphic designer, and as far as I've gotten in the book, there is a radio signal that has been detected that seems to be coming from outer space. And they believe, based on the type of signal that it is, that it may be evidence of another life form. So, is this going to be a first encounter sci fi? I don't really know. I made it pretty decently far into the book, page 152, but this is, I think, like what, 940, 960, 970 something. So I have about 840 pages left of this to read. I'm not going to restart. Like, I pretty well remember who the characters are and what happened in the book. So I don't feel like I need to backtrack in that to keep going. So I won't. So I will likely pick this up because I would like to just finish it. So this may be the first Mammoth that I actually read in March, but we'll see. All right, book 3. Letter S. I thought I know what book this is. I literally just filmed the video yesterday, guys. You'd think I would remember, but I really don't. My next book pick for the letter S is going to be The Strudlhof Steps by Heimitio von Doderer. And this is a book that I have had on my bookshelves, I think just for a year now or so. And yeah, it's a nice chunky book. It's 850 pages long, which is funny because the last 2 books have also been right around 850. I guess that's the number of the day. And it uses the metaphor of this double staircase that you can see in the picture of the book, which is apparently a well-known staircase in Austria, or in Vienna, Austria, and it uses it as a metaphor for the intersecting lives of all the different characters in this book. From what I can tell, this definitely seems like it's a book that is a character study. It's going into the different lives of different people and their class, and yeah, it just sounds like it's going to be all about people, their interactions in this area. I'm really looking forward to getting to this. It's something that, I occasionally see and go, ooh, I can't wait to get to that. And then someone recently reviewed it. I'm trying to think who. Someone in the last few months reviewed this book and made me want to read it even more. So I'm really hoping that I get to this month. But again, it's another chunky book. I mean, they're all going to be chunky books. So we'll see which one ends up getting picked. I'm getting excited. Book 4. Yeah, I'm just remembering I meant to shuffle the wheel. I'll do that after this. The letter I. I can see it on there, and I don't remember what the book was. The book for the letter I is 1,030 pages, so that racks up the number count really quickly. And that is the instructions by Adam Levin. I have a copy that is in 2 volumes, but this is indeed just one book. In fact, it was originally printed as one book. But I like that it is in 2 volumes. I kind of wish more publishers would occasionally give you that option because sometimes it's just easier to carry your book around and keep reading it if it's in 2 volumes, especially if it's in trade paperback size or slightly larger. Anyway, this book doesn't actually have on the back any details about what the book is about, so I've kind of forgotten that. I do know that it is about a young man who, I don't remember if he has a messiah complex or if the other students he's in school with start to think he's the messiah. I just know that it's a school setting. It definitely sounds like it's going to be dark but funny at the same time. It should be interesting. And these additions, the artwork on them is just absolutely beautiful. I won't show you the one on the back of this one because there's this whole cover of this one. In fact, of both of them, if you look too closely, there are very suspect things happening. Um, it should be a ride. I have heard and been told, and we'll see. Okay, like I mentioned, I had meant to shuffle the wheel just because of your picks were next to each other. So let's shuffle it 3 times and then spin. Okay, let's spin again. It's awkward just standing here. I do know what the book for E is. Don't I? I think I do. Yeah, I do. Okay, the book whose title starts with the letter E. I thought I knew which book this was. I thought it was The Eighth Life. That's what I was thinking. And I was wrong. That was not the book that was on this year's list. I think that was the book that was on last year's list. But on this year's list was The Ember Blade by Chris Wooding. And this comes in at 824 pages. And I should mention that one of the things that I do allow myself to do is to swap books out. So if I have a couple of different books whose title starts with the letter E, and are over 800 pages, like in this case I do, if I go to pick up the Ember Blade and I'm just not in the mood for it, I might swap it out for The Eighth Life. I like having the prompts because just if I pick up a book and I'm like, oh, I'm really not in the mood to read this, it gives me a quick way to find another book to replace it with without having to look through the whole library. I know, big library problems, right? Anyway, this is a book that is definitely a quest fantasy, and I have been told that it is very reminiscent of The Lord of the Rings without being spot on the nose, like the sort of Shannara, I think it is. I read that a couple of years ago, and it was just too on the nose. um, but I've heard if you like The Lord of the Rings, you like The Lord of Shannara, you like The Wheel of Time, that this is a good, shorter, more concise book, even though it is a mammoth. It's just this one book. I think there is now a sequel. If I'm right about that, because I never bothered to look it up, I will put what the sequel is up on the screen. But anyway, I think it was originally written as a standalone. I'm hoping so because if so, like I'm really likely to only read this book even if it wasn't written as a standalone. So I'm hoping the end of this story resolves pretty well. But it's just supposed to be classic epic journey fantasy with, all the good things. And I do like that occasionally. So this will be a good one to have on my list. Maybe I'll find it in audiobook form. I do like a good fantasy on audio, so that would be fun to listen to and will help me still get things done while trying to read gajillions of pages. All right, the next one. Okay. This actually helps me out with my reading plans for the month, so I'm happy to get this book on the list. Okay, guys, I lucked out with this one. For the letter C of my book, it's going to be Clarissa, which is good because this is actually my required reading for this month. I am working my way through Clarissa as a read along with a few of you, and we are reading the letters in here on the day that they were sent. So there are dated letters in here. The entire book is epistolary, so written as letters. And for the month of March, we will be reading all the letters that are written in March. So far, we've had it very easy. This is a humongous book. I think the whole thing is like 1,400 pages long. So it's going to take the year to read it. But I think we've only had to read like the first 30 pages in January and February. Well, Clarissa and Samuel Richardson knew that March was March of the Mammoths. So we go from having to read 13 pages in 1 month to 200 some odd pages. So it's like a whole novel that we're reading in this month. Apparently, Clarissa, like everybody else, had a lot to say, so she's adding her own mammoth writing. At least it's not 800 pages, right? So that'll be good. I'm looking forward to it. It's actually funny because the day that I'm recording this is February 19th. So tomorrow, February 20th, I get to read my first February letter. So that'll be fun because it has been a bit of a cliffhanger having to wait this long to see what happens next in the book. But the nice thing about an epistolary novel is that typically each letter like concludes a thought and you can kind of pick back up the next one without a lot of problems. We'll see if that holds true. But anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back into Clarissa. I have been heavily annotating this book. Yeah, and I'm ready. I'm ready to get back into it in February, and hopefully I'll be feeling the same way once March comes. All right, let's pick again. I don't think the heavier picks coming up this month. The letter B. Don't recall. For the letter B, I have the Brothers Karamazov. I almost read this in February, but ended up switching to some other things. I am excited to get back to it and potentially read it in the month of March. I read maybe the first chapter in January, which wasn't very long, and I was enjoying it. But then I think what happened was it was going to leave me with just Don Quixote and the Brother Karamazov for pretty much half of February as my only two books that I was reading, and I just didn't want to do that at the time. So maybe I'll come back to it in March. We'll see. And I forgot to mention the Brothers Karamazov is 900 pages long. Ooh, I like how the letters are getting bigger on the wheel. All right, let's spin again. The letter D. I wasn't sure if it was going to land on the M or not. Coming in at 1,140 pages, which makes it my last book that I need to pick, would be the book for the letter D, which I'm super excited about. It is Divine Days by Leon Forrest. And this is a book that's been on my TBR, I don't even know how long. I want to say a couple of years. It has been on my list of books that I want to read one day. And the reason I hadn't bought it sooner is because, as far as I could tell, it was no longer in print. And then I saw somebody haul it just this past month, and I said, and I instantly had to buy it. So this will be pretty satisfying if I get to it in terms of it's a TBR vet, it's something I recently hauled, it's a Mammoth book, and it's been called The War and Peace of African American Literature. How is that for a blurb? That sounds super exciting to me. But let me tell you a little bit more about this book. It is about Jubert, who is on writing assignments for his aunt. I don't understand how she's given him writing assignments. And his writing efforts focus on two protean tricksters that are of his acquaintance. And my understanding is that he basically spends his time wandering around Harlem and New York City for 1 week. So this entire book is just what happens in 1 week. It must be a really eventful week. And this must be every single second of all of those days. like, but I'm excited about it. That sounds really amazing to me. It sounds like there's going to be a lot of characters introduced. I'm sure a lot of interesting different situations. And I believe the protagonist is also a playwright. Did I say that? I think that's correct. And so that will also be interesting. I'm hoping there's some like interactions in the writing and literary and theater community going on in the book, but we'll see. Anyway, that is everything. Let me show you the entire stack. Oh my gosh, guys. Can you even see it all? There you go. So, this is my pile of possibilities for March, except for Clarissa, which is a must read. And in fact, that's not the only thing I have to read in the month of March, as much as you ever have to read anything. But let me talk about the other couple of books that I also need to get to in the month of March. So, the first one is Year of Wonder by Clemency Burton. This is one piece of classical music per day with a one-page blurb. So in the month of March, are there 30 or 31 days? Whichever it is, that's how many pages I'll be reading out of this. And on Discord, I will be putting up what my favorite song of the week is, as well as what my favorite song of the month is. And I've really been enjoying that book. There have been some just beautiful pieces that we've heard and exciting pieces. And for most of the month of February and part of January, those of us who regularly share in the group have all liked the same exact songs. So that's pretty impressive. And the other book that definitely needs to get on this list is the book that I will be reading for book club. I am involved in a local book club, and this month's pick is Stephen King's Fairytale. I have read nothing by Stephen King, so this will be my first one. I'm glad that it's not a horror book because I definitely would have skipped that. And it'll be interesting to see what I think about this book. As far as I can tell, it's not really a fairy tale retelling, but some of what I've heard reminds me more of Shrek, not in terms of tone and comedy and humor, but just in terms of it involves a lot of fairy tale characters and they all come together or something of that nature. I wouldn't be surprised if the book is still kind of on the dark side in terms of tone and mood, but I really don't know that much about it beyond what I just said. So we'll see how this goes. So let me show it all together. You can see why I'm happy that I got Clarissa on the pile of possibilities. You can see most of them. So I will definitely be reading Clarissa. I will be listening to Year of Wonder. I will definitely be reading Stephen King's Fairytale. And then who knows out of which of these other ones. I'll probably start with XX and maybe the Ember Blade, or one of the other ones on audiobook. In fact, that's not true. I'll probably start with Stephen King on audiobook as well as XX physically reading. And then we'll just see where I go from there and how many of these I'm able to knock out. I typically am able to read about 3,000 pages each month. So I should definitely be able to get through at least two of my Mammoth books this month. Maybe three. It always just depends on how quickly they read. Like the classics, like the Forsyte saga, that might end up reading as a book that's twice as long. Classics tend to take me twice as long to read as contemporary fiction. So I will probably try to alternate between physically reading a classic and physically reading a contemporary novel. But again, we'll just see what happens. And yeah, I'll report back. I'll let you know. And there will be more content coming this month about mammoths. I definitely want to share with you the ones that I've read in the past, which ones I gave 5 stars to, and which ones were the worst ones I've ever read. I can already think of one. But I'll be sharing that this month. So if you'd like to hear more about that or see which of these I end up reading, be sure to subscribe to my channel. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. It helps other people to see this video and find my channel. And that's it for me. Let me know what you will be reading and working on in the month of March, and I will talk to you next time.